shooting it, and then it got all the way down to 1, and then it stopped. Alright, hello YouTube, Derek Shoehorn here for Life Advice. This is my second attempt at recording this video. The first time I was in full flow and someone called me and it just put me off my stride. I didn't answer it, but judging by the number, I think it was the water board. I owe them £73, which is outstanding, but I'm not going to pay it. I've heard that all they do if you don't pay is they cut your water off. But I don't know who they think they're kidding with that. That's no threat. I mean, water falls out the sky. So, with all that being said, let's get right into today's questions. Derek, on a recent episode of the Coleman Hughes podcast about police brutality, Coleman said, quote, "Everyone has heard of George Floyd, but no one has heard of Tiny Temper," end quote. As soon as he said it, I started screaming and I haven't stopped since. Any advice? And that is from Gary McFarlane in London. Well, first of all, Gary, it's a great question. Thank you for that. I am a huge fan of Coleman Hughes. I listen to his podcast very regularly. For those who don't know, he's an American writer and political commentator. I hugely admire him. I mean, his mustard is a little strong for me at times. But I gotta say, in this instance, I actually do disagree with Coleman, because when he says that everyone's heard of George Floyd, no one's heard of Tiny Temper, he's wrong. I've heard of Tiny Temper. He's the guy who released the same song 5 times and got to #1 each time. Incredible achievement from Tiny. And I gotta say, it made me a little sick when that happened, because I remember back in the 90s, I was approached by an agent who offered me that exact same scam, and I turned it down. At the time, I thought I was some kind of moral exemplar, and I thought I was above that kind of thing, but then Tiny's gone and done it, so I got a hats off to him. But like I say, it makes me a little bit sick, because it could have been me cashing in on that. As far as the screaming goes, Gary, I would imagine that if you've been screaming for however long it is since you listened to the Coleman Hughes podcast, you've probably by now put your fingers in your ears, okay? And this is a common mistake, so don't feel bad about it, but a lot of people do put their fingers in their ears when they start chronically screaming like that. And it's actually the worst thing you can do. So that's my advice to you, Gary. Just take your fingers out of your ears, and probably you'll find that you'll stop screaming eventually when you can hear what's going on around you a lot better. And it can be painful. It can be painful at first to actually hear and listen to what's going on around you. But eventually, if you do that and you push through that pain, you will stop screaming. So I hope that helps, Gary, and good luck with it. Derek, I recently turned 50. God has blessed me with a long, successful career as a pornographer. Brackets, not the only long and successful thing, haha, close brackets. But recently, I've been considering a change of career. My question is, how do I break the news to my family that I want to be a COVID marshal? And that is from Mike Adriano in Miami. Well, Mike, first of all, it's a great honor. Thank you for the question. I had no idea that you were a viewer of Life Advice, and it makes me very proud indeed to have people of your caliber corresponding with us here. So thank you for that. Second of all, please, I beg of you, do not become a COVID marshal. Honestly, even if you do want to walk away at the top of your game, which I do believe you are at the top of your game right now, if you do want to do that, fair enough. I don't advise it. But maybe I'm being biased there because I want to keep you involved. But if you are going to walk away at the top of your game, as I say, please don't become a COVID marshal. Honestly, I was walking my mom's dog the other day, and I saw 2 of them, 2 COVID marshals coming. I've never seen such broken people. Honestly, they couldn't look me in the eye. It was horrific. These were some of the most shame-faced individuals I've ever seen. So please just don't become a COVID marshal, anything but that. In an ideal world, speaking for myself, I would prefer it if you stuck with the pornography. Yeah, as I say, just don't become a COVID marshal. You won't be able to look yourself in the eye. Derek, I am a little bitch. Why haven't you answered my question yet? Are you a coward? Blah, blah, blah. And that is from Yasmin Antifreeze. Alright, thank you very much for that question, Yasmin. I'm sorry to hear that you're a little bitch, but it's one of those conditions that there's not a lot you can do about it. So I guess you just have to buckle up and deal with that one. The question that you sent me, I did say that I was going to do another video on the topic of that question, which was the topic of trolling. and I haven't gotten around to it yet, and maybe now that you send me this question I might not bother, okay? Trolls be trolling. I'm not a coward. I'll tell you one small anecdote to prove it, okay? I did once a week of work as a tree surgeon. I was working on the ground using the chainsaws, cutting up trees. That takes courage in itself, I'm sure you'll agree, Yasmin. Have you ever used a chainsaw, Yasmin? On top of the courage that it takes to do that job in itself for a week, at the end of that week, the regular staff there had a team bonding exercise where they went out into the woods and played laser tag. Now, I don't know if anyone's played laser tag. It's a lot like paintball, but without the paintballs. Some SAS guys, military guys, they say that laser tag is actually in some ways more terrifying than war. But courage, being courageous, not being a coward, that doesn't mean not being terrified. It means feeling the terror and doing it anyway. So that's why I'm not a coward, because I was terrified, but then I made a huge sprint at the end of one of the games. Started firing at the target. The digital counter on my gun was showing that the score of the other team was going down as I was shooting this target. So I was shooting it, and then it got all the way down to 1, and then it stopped. And it turned out that all my teammates were dead. So we may have lost that round, but I think my actions there proved that I am no coward. So I hope that answers your question, Yasmin. Thanks for that question. That was a great question. Alright guys, that's it for today. As always, keep growing. No cheat days.